For 81 years, Japan's most feared aircraft carrier vanished into the Pacific. No wreck, no debris, only whispers of the flagship that led the attack on Pearl Harbor. But in 2023, deep-sea explorers dropped a remote-operated vehicle 18,000 feet down, and what it captured finally solved a mystery that has haunted historians for nearly a century. Akagi wasn't built for subtlety. Commissioned in 1927, she was the largest carrier in the Imperial Japanese Navy and a symbol of Japan's growing naval ambitions. By 1941, Akagi had been modernized, her flight deck extended, her armor reinforced, and her air group among the most powerful in the world. She was designed to project power across the Pacific, and that power was about to be unleashed. Her first major wartime operation was the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. Akagi carried over 70 aircraft, including Mitsubishi A6M0 fighters, torpedo bombers, and dive bombers. Under Admiral Choichi Nagumo, she led the first wave of planes, launching them with clockwork precision into a surprise attack that would cripple the U.S. Pacific Fleet. Battleships burned, hangars exploded, and chaos erupted on Oahu. Akagi's role was decisive. She was both orchestrator and participant in a strike that reshaped the Pacific War overnight. After Pearl Harbor, Akagi's operations didn't slow. In early 1942, she participated in a series of raids across the Pacific and Indian Oceans. At Rabaul, Lai, and the Dutch East Indies, her air group destroyed Allied bases, ports, and ships, showcasing Japan's ability to project air power across vast distances. She became a symbol of dominance, feared not only for her firepower, but for her operational precision. Akagi's crews were constantly tested. Carrier operations were perilous, launching dozens of aircraft, recovering them on a pitching deck, and maintaining engines, guns, and fuel in tropical conditions demanded absolute discipline. Every successful mission further cemented Akagi's reputation as a war-winning machine. But it was also a machine operating at the edge of human endurance. Fatigue, tropical storms, and battle damage were constant threats. The strategic importance of carriers like Akagi became clear as the Pacific War unfolded. Battleships alone could no longer determine naval supremacy. Aircraft carriers were now the central instruments of power. Akagi's early successes proved this principle, but they also made her a prime target. The Americans, learning from their losses, began developing new tactics to strike back at Japan's carrier fleet. By May 1942, Akagi and her sister carriers were at the center of a Japanese offensive aimed at Midway Island. Intelligence failures and underestimated American capabilities would turn this operation into a decisive confrontation. Akagi's flight deck, once a symbol of invincibility, would face its greatest test yet. The first images of the wreck were unmistakable, the massive, twisted outline of the carrier. The flight deck was warped, the hull broken, and sections appeared inverted, as if the ship had collapsed in ways no historical account had predicted. The wreck challenges everything we thought we knew. Some sections are burned, others twisted or collapsed. Could hidden explosions from the ship's own ammunition magazines have accelerated her sinking? Or did underwater currents and pressure at extreme depths twist the hull in ways survivors couldn't imagine? Every bent hull plate, collapsed flight deck, and angled propeller tells a story history books never recorded. Finding Akagi was no small feat. The Pacific Ocean isn't just vast, it's monstrously deep, cold, and dark. The wreck lies nearly 18,000 feet below the surface on the abyssal plain, a place so remote that only specialized submersibles can survive the crushing pressure. Maps and survivor accounts offered rough coordinates, but shifting sands, currents, and underwater landslides could easily bury a ship the size of Akagi. Early sonar and deep-sea cameras weren't precise enough, and the wreck's chaotic, collapsed shape further complicated detection. For decades, every expedition returned empty-handed. This discovery reshapes how we understand the Battle of Midway. Every damaged deck, burned section, and twisted hull plate offers clues about how the battle unfolded, how damage spread, and how survival and disaster intertwined. And yet, mysteries remain. Why did some sections burn while others appear almost untouched? How did her final collapse differ from survivor accounts? Could new clues from Akagi reveal secrets about other ships lost that day? Secrets that could finally close one of World War II's most enduring mysteries? The IJN Akagi is no longer just a name in history books. She is a witness from the deep, revealing the final moments of a legendary ship. For the first time in 81 years, we can see her truth for ourselves. Bomb damage and internal explosions. When American dive bombers struck Akagi at Midway, the assault was sudden and devastating. Bombs tore through the flight deck, destroying parked aircraft and sending flames and smoke skyward. Crew members scrambled to fight the inferno, but the damage was immediate and catastrophic. Akagi's flight deck, once a symbol of strength, became a chaotic tangle of twisted steel and burning wreckage. Ammunition and fuel ignited, feeding the flames that firefighting teams could barely contain. Witnesses later described fire leaping tens of meters into the air, enveloping sections of the carrier in a hellish blaze. Internal explosions added another layer of chaos. Torpedo and bomb magazines, vulnerable to the heat and shock of incoming bombs, detonated in chain reactions that tore apart bulkheads and decks. The force warped steel and collapsed compartments, creating destruction no surface observer could have predicted. Inside, sailors were trapped by collapsing walls, floods, and bursts of flame. Some were blown clear. Others fought through smoke to reach the ladders leading to the flight deck. Electrical and hydraulic systems failed under the stress. Deck elevators jammed, hoses ruptured, and pumps stopped working. Without these systems, fires spread faster, and structural collapse accelerated. The combination of bomb strikes and internal detonations made the sinking unusually dramatic. Sections of the hull twisted inward while upper decks caved. Analysis of the wreck shows inverted compartments and distorted decks, evidence that much of the collapse was driven by internal explosions rather than external hits alone. Yet not all damage was uniform. Armored bulkheads and fuel tanks resisted fire and blast, leaving patches of the ship almost intact. This uneven destruction is visible on the wreck today, a frozen record of the battle's ferocity. The explosions didn't just destroy Akagi, they disrupted the crew's attempts to save her. Secondary blasts created pressures and shockwaves that no historical report could fully capture. Modern imaging of the wreck reveals the sequence of damage with unprecedented clarity, reshaping our understanding of how quickly the carrier sank. Even now, questions remain. Could different ammunition storage or design have prevented such rapid destruction? Were some explosions worsened by hidden flaws, or simply by the intensity of American dive-bombing tactics? Each section of Akagi on the seabed holds clues to one of World War II's most consequential naval losses. Even as Akagi lay burning and listing in the waters off Midway, the battle was far from over. The carrier's crew had been evacuated as much as possible, but the ship was beyond saving. Fires raged uncontrollably. Internal explosions had already weakened the hull, and the vessel threatened to drift into enemy hands. For the Japanese Navy, letting Akagi fall intact to the Americans was unthinkable. At the order of Admiral Nagumo, Japanese destroyers moved in to finish the task. These smaller, agile ships approached carefully, navigating the chaos of the battlefield while dodging the potential threat of lingering American aircraft. Their mission: deliver torpedoes to sink their own flagship, ensuring it would not be captured or provide intelligence to the enemy. The destroyers fired torpedoes into Akagi's already damaged hull. Each hit punctured the carrier's compartments, letting seawater rush in and hastening her descent. Flames still licked the flight deck, smoke billowed from the superstructure, and the ship listed further to port. From above, Akagi must have looked like a giant monster, slowly succumbing to the sea, her decks twisted and fractured from the earlier bomb strikes. Sailors aboard the destroyers described the tension of the moment. They were striking their own navy's pride and symbol of power. Yet it was necessary to prevent the ship from being captured. Explosions from the torpedo hits joined those already raging inside Akagi, sending steel and debris flying into the water. The carrier's massive hull began to tilt sharply, her bow rising as her stern sank deeper, before finally disappearing beneath the waves. The scuttling was a grim ritual, a final act of control over a ship that had once symbolized invincibility. Japanese crews watched their flagship vanish beneath the Pacific, a mixture of grief and duty etched into their faces. The destroyers then withdrew, leaving only the smoke and silence behind, as Akagi settled into her grave nearly 18,000 feet below the surface. This final act ensured that no intelligence, aircraft, or technology could be salvaged by the Americans. Yet, it also left behind one of the most dramatic and enigmatic wrecks of the Second World War. The scuttling, combined with bomb damage and internal explosions, created the chaotic wreck site discovered decades later, a twisted, burned, and inverted relic that still tells the story of Akagi's final hours. Even today, the precise angles of torpedo entry and the way sections of the hull collapsed provide historians with insights into naval scuttling practices, ship construction, and the sheer scale of wartime destruction. Akagi did not simply sink. She was methodically returned to the deep by her own navy, a deliberate farewell to a symbol of Japanese naval might. The cause of sinking. For decades, historians debated Akagi's final moments. Some argued that American dive bombers alone sank her, while others insisted the Japanese scuttling torpedoes were the decisive factor. The wreck, lying nearly 18,000 feet beneath the Pacific, has now provided answers, revealing a more nuanced story. Both forces worked together, each amplifying the other, to send Akagi to the ocean floor. The American bombs initiated the sequence of destruction. Precision dive bombing strikes tore through the flight deck, ruptured hangars, and ignited fuel and ammunition. These explosions compromised the ship's structural integrity and disabled critical systems, leaving the carrier vulnerable to further damage. High temperatures and blast pressure triggered secondary fires and internal detonations in the magazines, further weakening her core. Without this initial aerial assault, Akagi might have remained afloat long enough for the crew to stabilize her. But the Japanese torpedoes were equally pivotal. Once the destroyers approached, they targeted the carrier's already compromised hull, opening gashes below the waterline. Flooding accelerated, listing increased, and twisted sections of the hull gave way under the combined weight of water and structural failure. The torpedoes acted not merely as a finish, but as a catalyst, exploiting vulnerabilities created by the bombs and internal explosions. In essence, the torpedoes pushed Akagi past the tipping point that aerial bombs alone had not fully achieved. Modern imaging of the wreck provides clear evidence of this combined effect. Bomb damage is concentrated on the flight deck and superstructure, with charred and collapsed sections visible. Torpedo damage, by contrast, is most apparent along the hull and lower decks, where water entry caused additional collapse and buckling. The sequence of failure, bombs igniting fires, magazines detonating internally, torpedoes flooding the hull, explains the twisted, inverted sections observed today. Neither the bombs nor the torpedoes acted in isolation. Together, they created a chain reaction that proved fatal. This dual contribution also explains the long-standing discrepancies in historical accounts. American pilots saw the carrier engulfed in flames and reported devastating bomb damage, while Japanese survivors noted torpedo strikes accelerating the sinking. Both observations were accurate, just incomplete on their own. Only by combining the evidence from eyewitness accounts, historical reports, and modern wreck analysis can we see the full picture. Resolving this 80-year debate underscores how Akagi's destruction was a product of both human action and mechanical vulnerability. It was precision airstrikes that initiated catastrophic damage, but deliberate scuttling torpedoes ensured that the once mighty Flagship could not be salvaged. This synergy between offense and strategic decision-making illustrates the complexity of naval warfare and why the Battle of Midway became a turning point in the Pacific. 2019 to 2023, Wreck Discovery. For decades, Akagi's final resting place remained one of the greatest maritime mysteries of World War II. While historians had approximate coordinates from survivor accounts and wartime reports, the Pacific Ocean is vast, deep, and unforgiving. The carrier had been lost nearly 18,000 feet below the surface, on the abyssal plain, a region of crushing pressure, near freezing temperatures, and complete darkness. Early expeditions returned empty-handed, their sonar and submersibles incapable of penetrating the sediment-covered seabed or resolving a vessel twisted and collapsed by decades underwater. The breakthrough came in 2019, when a multinational team of deep-sea explorers began using a combination of high-resolution sonar mapping and advanced remote-operated vehicles, ROVs. Unlike earlier attempts, which relied on coarse sonar sweeps, this project leveraged detailed ocean floor topography, satellite data, and survivor-based historical research to narrow the search area to a manageable zone. It was painstaking work. Even a slight miscalculation could leave a 260-meter-long carrier hidden beneath layers of sediment or misidentified among natural seabed formations. The first hints of success came in 2021, when sonar images revealed anomalous shapes lying on the ocean floor. At first, they were indistinct, large, twisted, metallic shapes that could have been wreckage, but could also have been geological formations or sunken debris. In 2019, a remote-operated vehicle revealed Akagi's final resting place, a twisted flight deck, broken hull, and inverted sections, confirming theories about bomb and torpedo damage. Over the next 2 years, teams documented her wreck in detail, capturing collapsed decks, jammed elevators, charred hangars, and hull breaches. These images allowed historians to reconstruct her sinking, resolving decades of uncertainty about the combined effects of bombs, internal explosions, and scuttling torpedoes. Akagi's story highlights the interplay of technology, timing, and fortune in warfare. Despite being a technological marvel, she was vulnerable to precise American strikes, chance events, and human decisions. Her sinking at Midway halted Japanese expansion, marking a critical shift in the Pacific War and demonstrating that even the most advanced warships are not invincible. Akagi's wreck is more than a historical artifact. It is a testament to the limits of technology, the impact of strategic decisions, and the role of chance in shaping history. Resting silently on the ocean floor, she symbolizes the turning point at Midway and the profound consequences of a single battle on the course of the war.